Well, thank you for joining us for tonight's Backpacks to Briefcases Budgeting 101. I'm Greg Berry, Assistant Director in the Office of Alumni Affairs. Just a quick note, since we're virtual, don't be surprised if things may seem out of place or a technical issue pops up. If you experience any issues with your audio or video, please click the Reconnect button at the top of your screen. This will get you back to the webinar right away. Tonight's webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded onto our website tomorrow. If you have questions throughout the evening, please place them in the chat room. We'll have time for a Q&A at the end of the presentation. Tonight's webinar is part of our Backpacks to Briefcases Evergreen Certificate Series. This series has 4 events each year, 2 in the spring, 2 in the fall. Topics will focus on financial planning, personal branding, workplace skills, as well as personal life. Between each event, there will be chances to take advantage of golden electives. These will be things like lunch and learns, networking, and volunteering opportunities. To receive your Evergreen certificate and your Evergreen lapel pin, you must complete all 4 Evergreen events and 2 golden electives. Doesn't mean you can't do more. These do not have to happen during the same calendar year. Just jump on in and join us at any point. Students and young alumni are all welcome to participate in the program. We have more information online at alumni.uab.edu/backpacks. I will also highlight upcoming opportunities for this program after tonight's presentation. So tonight we welcome Gina Cannady, Assistant Vice President of Training and Community Involvement at Legacy Community Federal Credit Union. Gina is a certified credit union financial counselor and chair of the Legacy for Good Foundation. At this time, I would like to turn things over to Gina. Welcome.
So what we're going to do is talk about ways of building a budget and things to think about. And remember, this is budgeting basics. This is not every answer to every question you've ever had. But it gets us into that mindset and some things that we are going to do and cover here. The first thing when you're talking about budgeting is to realize that budgeting and finance has an emotional response, and everybody responds differently. There are some things that help us, if we combat those emotional responses, to have more positive financial outcomes. When we start to think about fear and guilt, the fear we won't have enough, the guilt that we won't be able to provide for our families. And once we address those, then it becomes a little easier to think through some things and goal setting. Shame. That is a huge one of saying and shame and envy that go together so often. I am not at the same level as my neighbor, as my colleague, as my sibling, which is a very common response. But remember, that is their story. That is not your story. So when we start to combat these emotional responses when it comes to finance, then we begin to build more informed decisions about our personal, unique situation that will inform family values. One of the things that we know is we learn how to deal with money from our family situation. And either we will do one of 2 things, exactly the same or exactly opposite. So if there are changes that need to be made, we need to be able to do that not only for ourselves, but for the next generation, so that we are saving wisely, we're investing wisely, we are preparing. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about budget, it's all about being able to spend and still survive. So when it comes to thinking about budgeting, one of the tools that is always great to use is the 50-30-20 rule. And that is how you split up your essentials or your needs, your wants, and the gray area, which is that 30% in between. So 50% right now, those are your needs. Those are the essentials to life. You need to be able to have somewhere to live. You need to have reliable transportation. Whatever transportation you take, it needs to be reliable. You need to provide food. You need to provide clothing for your family. So that should be 50% of your budget. And what we are seeing in today's economy is that 50% is actually getting a little little higher. We're going a little more than that with gas prices and grocery prices and utility prices going up. That needs to be where you focus first on. When it comes to 30% of your budget, those are going to be things like, am I preparing for the future with some type of savings goals? Am I preparing for my retirement? Do I have loan products? And loan products there would not incorporate your mortgage or an auto loan. Those would be credit cards. Those would be personal loans. Those would be other types of credit products. And then, of course, anything that is medical that you would need to do to prepare for the future. 20%, that's your lifestyle. That is, and there's no right or wrong of what you put in there. You can have, if you would like to go out with your friends. I'm not saying in anybody's budget that you can't go out. We just need to have that as part of the 20%. If you have a hobby that you really love to do, then you put that in there and you prepare for it, so you'll always be able to enjoy life. So I love, and I wish I had him saying this. It's the easiest thing to say, okay, you know what? Stop spending, start saving. Isn't that easy for me to say? But how do we go about doing it? And one of the things I've always told people is that, hey, our parents told us to be smart about our money, didn't they? So we need to be smart about budgeting. And smart means we need to be very specific in what we're doing. We need to be measurable, adjustable, realistic. Realistic is big on a budget, and timely. So in that means when it comes to specific, why do you have a budget? It's not just because it's a wise thing to do. You have a budget to achieve a goal. So what is your goal? But is that goal realistic? If you're saying, hey, I want to save for the future, that's great. If you want to save $12,000 for the future, okay. You want to do $12,000 within a year, we've got that time feature. But when we look at the budget, that means $1,000 a month. Is that realistic? If it's not realistic now, maybe it will be in a year. And that means we have to start adjusting that. So we need to make sure we're looking at the different parts of smart budgeting, smart saving, and goal setting. So, and there are three types of goals. We're going to talk short term tonight, mostly about budgeting. That is 6 to 12 months. That is making sure that we have that 50-30-20, that we're covering our essentials. We are having our needs, our wants, and our lifestyle choices. Saving 1 to 5 years. Saving for a car, saving for a down payment on a home. So I'm not going to be able to achieve it right now, but it's in the near future. It's that 5-year plan you always heard about in college, especially. What's your 5-year plan? But then for your long term, you're going to invest in different ways. 5 years or more, that's going to be your retirement. Always invest in yourself through IRAs, 401ks, things of that nature. Your children's college education, 529 plans. Invest and prepare for the future. So there are 5 steps in a smart spending plan, because that is what a budget is. Budget is always that scary word, but we're talking about ways of spending. To do that, to start building that spending plan, that basic budget, you have to first start with listing all your income. And this is going to vary from person to person. So the first thing is, what is your paycheck? What is your bring home, the net? And if you have a spouse or a partner that you're sharing that budget with, add theirs in as well. There's some other things that can go into a budget, and there's some pitfalls as well. For instance, if you get bonuses or incentives, those are bonuses and incentives, so they're not necessarily guaranteed. I always tell people, you budget on your net, you can save on your bonus. If you get your pension or Social Security, those are going to be guaranteed. Your tax refund, biggest mistake I see people make this time of year is they put their tax refund into a monthly budget. Tax refunds come out once a year. So that is a mistake I see people make. And we are, as a financial counselor, looking to see what kind of impact last year's stimulus, the monthly stimulus checks for children, are going to have on tax bills, because it was a borrowing from your tax refund. So that's going to be very interesting. And once again, because you need reliability in your monthly income, if you have child support or alimony, you know your situation. Are those income sources, income chains that are something that will be there every month on a very specific day? If any of these are not reliable income sources, then you need to use them more for long-term savings, for that 5-year, even that over 5-year savings plan, not necessarily for a monthly budget. So that you've gotten your income down, the next thing is you have to determine what are your expenses. And there's various types of expenses and how you approach them. And the first thing you have to look at, what are your fixed expenses? That's going to be your car payment. You know it's $300 and it's due the 15th day of the month. Or your mortgage or your rent. It's a very specific amount at a very specific time. So it's fixed. And then you have your flexible. Food costs, that's going to vary according to your individual situation. I have a teenage boy right now. He's eating me out of house and home. Your utilities. We won't pay as much right now in utilities as we may in August, when we're running that AC a lot more. Now, there are ways to turn a flexible utility payment into a fixed payment through levelized billing, if that is an option that is offered for your situation. I know where I live, I cannot get it on my water bill, but I can get it on my power. So that helps in budgeting. So I have a very specific amount. And then your periodic, things like your homeowner's insurance, your renter's insurance, or your auto insurance. Do you pay that every month? If it's every month, then it's fixed. Do you pay it every 6 months or every 12 months? That becomes periodic. And you have to look at that situation and going, okay, I owe $600 every 6 months on my auto insurance. Therefore, each month, I must have that savings component of $100. I am a huge proponent of looking to do your auto insurance periodically, at least by every 6 months. On average, you will save 1 month's premium by paying it that way. But you have to be disciplined and put that into your budget to be able to save for that. So you have to list all your expenses. And to list all your expenses, you're going to have to track all your expenses. So then you've got to look for the balance. Income and expenses. In a perfect world, your scales are balanced, but oftentimes, oops, I hit the wrong button, but oftentimes they aren't. So if you have more income than expenses, you have a great opportunity to save. But if you have more expenses than income, you're going to have to look at ways to find some leaks and plug them. And some common leaks are what you see right here. None of these in and of themselves will be huge amounts of money, but collectively they can make a difference. Things like turning off the lights. I don't know about you, but my dad was always a big thing. He'd come, when you were in the room, he'd come and shut off those lights. Always, I thought half of my childhood was in the dark. Shut off the lights. Making sure that you are taking care of of your cars, of your home, that those little repairs don't become very big and expensive repairs later down the road. That little tiny drip, drip, drip that you hear underneath your bathroom sink, you don't think much about it. Maybe you put a little pan under there and get it up. But after a while, it ruins the seal on your pipes. And then if it drips onto the bottom of your cabinet, then it goes through your cabinet into your flooring. And now we've got some really big repairs. So not ignoring those. The biggest thing I tell people that you can do tomorrow is to check out unused services. Number one, if you have cable or if you have a satellite dish, do an audit. Do you use those channels? I think if you do that, you're going to be really surprised how few of big packages you use. And there might be other options. Streaming services are huge right now. Prime Video, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, those are a fraction of them. I do always caution people to make sure we don't have streaming creep, that we don't start adding so many we get back into that cable bill. Looking at your car insurance and your homeowner's insurance. When you look at those packages, quite often you will see things in there that are considered opt-outs and not opt-ins. So, for instance, I had a friend who lived in Kansas. He is a professor at the University of Kansas. And he did this and realized that he had hurricane insurance on his homeowners and realized, oh my gosh, I'm not in a hurricane area, so I'm paying for something I don't need. So check that out. Look at your cell phone. See if there are some of those opt-out features. Opt-in features. One of those, I was talking with someone this morning, as a matter of fact, on her phone. She had call forwarding, call waiting, and was paying for those two services to the tune of $21 a month. And my question was, did you even know you had these? And the answer was no. Well, there's $21 a month right there that we can start to tighten up these budgets. You know, we always say to control your expenses, to not shop when you're hungry and shop with a list. And if there's one good thing that came out of the pandemic is that we got really used to doing our online grocery shopping. And the studies have shown that we didn't overspend a lot on groceries when it came to online shopping because we went there with very specific needs. Now, when we went to Amazon and started shopping, that was a little different. We weren't shopping with a list. That became our impulse shopping. But shop with a list. Shop with a purpose. Making sure you're keeping track of your expenses and looking to avoid insufficient fees or going into courtesy pay or overdraft privilege. Insufficient fees are $32 to $45. So if you overdraw your account by 10 cents, it could cost you an extra $32 to $45. So just making sure you're keeping track. And if you have a great budget, you will start keeping track of that. Paying on time so you don't have those late fees. One way to avoid the late fees is to start automating payments. So it would come out at the time it needs to come out. You won't be late, and you know what? Once you set it up, you don't have to think about it again. And then, you know, I said start with a list. A great way is to do a pantry inventory. Before you go shopping, see what you have. And this is when you get home and you go, I already had 2 bottles of ketchup. Why did I buy a third? Because we don't know what we have. So first we need to have a list of what we need, and then we need to have a list of what we already have and work with those two. So there's a way you start plugging those leaks and you will find funds in there. So you can add income and make sure that your scales are balanced in that way. So then after you've gotten all of, you've looked at your income, you've looked at your expenses, you started checking out your leaks, you're going to review and make sure that this is realistic for you. You've got to track your expenses. It's not a one and done. You need to do it over several months to do that. You need to continue to find those places to save. And you might find some that you didn't even know. I had somebody today that was paying for a parking place. And I said, well, how often do you do that? And she goes, I don't even drive anymore. I'm remote working. So she's paying for parking, but not actually driving to work. And when we were able to cancel that and redirect, that's a great way to start building an emergency fund, because you want to make sure that all of these things are still working for you. And then you're going to have to manage your system, and that is on you. That is on you and a spouse. You're going to make sure that you track your expenses, you pay on time, that you are looking at reevaluating what you need, what you have annually, any major life change, marriage, divorce, had a baby, retired, got a new job, and making sure that those things are still fitting those goals you set. You also want to review it once you have met those goals. If part of your goal was to save for that down payment on a home and you have done it, well, you've met that goal, we have to reevaluate. Excuse me. Excuse me. So, ways to save a little more money. There are some spending leaks we talked about, but there are some other ways of making your habits work for you. You see a picture of a change jar on there. I'm a huge proponent of a change jar. I think it's overlooked often, and it is simple as getting a receptacle and throwing your change in it. And a lot of people have said, does it add up? I want pennies spend as easy as dollars. They will add up. And it's a great visual way to teach your children how to save. It's a type of passive savings because you're not doing anything new for it. Another great passive way of making your financial habits work for you is what's called incentive savings or roundup accounts that almost all financial institutions have. We are a society now that uses debit cards. So we use the debit card and we make our purchase and it's great. But what if there's a way to make that purchase make you money? A roundup account, say you spend $10.50, it rounds it up to an even $11. Makes it a lot easier to track your expenses because now we're not dealing with odd amounts. It puts that change into your roundup account. Nationally, roundup accounts are paying between 3 to 5%, regardless of the balance on there, the minimum balance. That is a great way to make your habits work for you. And then your money starts working for you too with compound interest, which is two of the greatest words in finance, compound interest. So you're not changing any activity, you're making your activity work for you. So look at your financial institution, ask them about debit card roundup accounts and see if that is an option for you. And if it is, really embrace it. So there's some other things that we do that can really add up with expenses. And on these, you'll notice that with one exception, I am not saying cut these things out. I'm saying cut down on them. With the exception, if you're doing something like smoking, I am going to ask you not to do that because that is a health issue at that point. But things like stopping by Starbucks. I had a Starbucks problem. I will admit it because there's one right by my office, guys. And when I did the math, I was spending over $1,000 a year on coffee. And I realized very quickly that I could go buy a box of K-Cups and some of my sugar-free flavored creamers, and for what cost little less than 2 Starbucks coffees, could get 2 weeks of drinks by doing that, by buying it. And therefore, when I go to Starbucks, it's now a treat. When stop going out for breakfast or lunch all the time, make it a treat. Maybe you go out 5 days a week, start by cutting down to 4. Not out, down. So those are some things that can really start to add up. And when you start tracking your expenses, if these are some habits you have or any other habits you have, you might see how it really is something you didn't realize was causing some drain, but it is. So those are some great ways to start adding money back into your budget. There we go. Other ways, and I love this one, it's called the 52 Weeks Money Savings Challenge. And it's a type of variable budgeting, and it's savings that can end up within 52 weeks or 1 year. If you follow this plan, you will save over $1,300. And it starts with $1. Week 1, $1. Week 2, $2. And you just build every week, it's $1 more. So you'll be able to see that. If you're doing this, put it in its own special club account or secondary savings account. You will see it add up. What you'll see up here is an example I have if anyone would like either this one or the 26-week payday challenge. If you want to link it into your paydays, same methodology. And you check it off as you do it. And there's something about that check off that you want to make the next one. And what's great about this is if something happens in life, because life is going to throw you curveballs when it comes to budgeting and saving and goals. If you have a week where you're doing great, but on week 21, you're ready to put that $21 in to your savings, but your child has a field trip to the McQueen Center and they need $20 to go, what do? As a parent, I can tell you, your child goes to the McQueen Center. So does that mean you start saving? No. If you have $1, you put $1 in and you just give yourself grace. As long as you continue to go forward. Maybe there might be 2 or 3 times as you're learning to do this, you might go back to the start and go back a little bit more. You will want to get that next check mark. It's a great way to save. It's a great way to save as a couple. I see couples that have done this. They've said our 52-week challenge is for our honeymoon. It's for our annual vacation. So they're savings with a goal. And they have a very specific amount that they're saving for. So if anyone wants this, please let me know and I will send you the documents for it. I've said a lot about you to track your expenses. So you're like, Gina, how do I do that? Do you just want me to write it down? If you want to write it down, that's great. Another way of doing it is one is the envelope method, classic Dave Ramsey. It works. That takes your budget into a cash budget. You go over, you've established what your expenses are, your needs and your wants and your lifestyle. You put the name of each of those on it. You have rent, you have car payment, you have entertainment, and you pay out of those envelopes. And when there's no money out of that entertainment envelope, you stay home. The jar method is the same type. This is by Gail Paz Oxlade, who has a wonderful book and show called Till Debt Do Us Part on CNBC. It is the same methodology as the Dave Ramsey envelope method, but it's highly visual. And what Till Debt Do Us Part that goes with is couple and family budgeting, because you're able to see it. And when the money's gone, the money's gone. Old-fashioned, old-school check register. Once again, we're just logging it in. But Google Sheets is another way of doing this, putting your expenses, putting your budget in there, of having it on your phone at all times, not having to keep up with envelopes, those types of things, and really being able to help track it for you. There are many apps out there, like Mint would be another one. And then if you like to do a spreadsheet, Excel, that would be another way to track it. It will, whatever method suits you, absolutely use that. There's no right or wrong way to track your expenses. I just encourage everyone to track your expenses in different methods. I really like the Google Sheets. This is an example, and what you'll see here is the link to it. It allows you to customize your budget, and you'll see your planned, that column is your budget. And then you put in the actual, and it's going to tell you, did you go over or did you go under? How much? There's a percentage of how much over or under, and then it's going to show you how much you saved or how much you went into the red. And that'll start really bringing it home, and it's on your phone. And let's face it, we all have our phone. So, sure, we can budget, right? Absolutely. One of the biggest things is you've got to put pen to paper, or maybe you're going to put stylus to that screen, and you're going to start tracking your expenses. You're going to be able to identify your income sources. The biggest thing I would ask you to do is to look for those spending leaks. Is it the going out to eat for lunch every day? I'm guilty of that, working on 280. There's all kinds of places out here. Is it a coffee habit? Is it going out with your friends every night or every week? Making things events in your life more than just the everyday, they're normal. So you really do start to appreciate it a little more. And there's also what's called the holiday budget. And that's something that we will talk about in the next session, but that's a budget within a budget. There are times in our lives when we know special things are coming up. It's going to be your summer vacation. It's going to be Thanksgiving, Christmas. So how do we make a budget within a budget? And then I do have this link right here, is just some more information about Savvy Saving. It's on budgeting of different ways to do it. Now you'll see here, I love this little graphic. It's tax season. So if you're getting a tax return and you don't have an emergency fund, start it. Use some seed money on it. And there are different things that you can do to start saving for that as well. Possibly your Roundup savings could be the start of your emergency fund. Or if you have found some savings within your cell or your insurance bills, you could take that extra money and start putting it into your emergency fund, because that will be something that you hope you never need it, but when you do need it, it's great that it's there. It really is. As someone who had a blown out tire a week ago, trust me, emergency funds are really, really great. They call them a sleep well at night fund, is what I like to call it. So, are there any questions that you have for me? I know I've seen some things come over the chat.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I would like to throw out there, Gina, if you can send me, a link or something for the 52 and 26 week challenges, I'll go ahead and include that in the follow-up email when we send that out tomorrow. That's been a popular thing. Okay. So we will get those documents out to you. If you have other things that you want to share too, Gina, we can go ahead and get those out as well. I'm glad you mentioned the resources available, like Google Sheets, because I was going to ask, are they free? I mean, that's better than cheap things. And since this is budgeting, we definitely want to hit that. So question that I have funneled in, with gas and food costs going up dramatically, how do we shift and adjust our budgets when necessary?
That is that is one of those things that has really started to bite recently with gas, especially. What you have to do at that point is first look. Being in Birmingham, if you have the opportunity to do something like Commute Smart, to share any type of transportation, please do that. That not only will save you funds, but that is better on the environment. So it's better in the long run. That is something I would definitely encourage everyone to look into. When it comes to how do we prepare, how do we budget for gas prices that within just the last few weeks have literally doubled, that is going to be something where we go, okay, my essentials are no longer 50%. They're 55%. They're 60%. Where does that fund come from? And unfortunately, that fund at that point is coming from our 20 or our lifestyle. We're going to have to tighten the belt a lot with gas and with the increasing grocery prices and the volatility right now of the market. That is somewhere, unfortunately, on a budget, that's the only place it can come from. The one thing I do tell people is please let tapping any type of retirement be an absolutely last resort. Not only tapping what you have saved, but changing the amount that you are saving. Please try to look at your lifestyle, that 20% as ways of finding extra funds and savings there. Look at ways that you can economize, and it may be not necessarily I'm having to cut down on things, but there are ways of helping you to have those expenses, such as if you do things like Fetch, if you do things like Ibotta, those are based on shopping groceries, which you can earn gift cards to different places like Publix if you wanted to help with that. So it's making your habits or your lifestyle work for you. So that can help as well. I know I had an experience with Ibotta myself of being able to say that it was going to be for my holiday spending. It ended up being when my washer and dryer went out within 4 days of each other. But through that, I was able to get, I think it was $400 in savings off of that. None of these are huge. Look at them little by little. If you have those optional features that you can opt out of, $21 a month, it's going to be right now about a third of a tank of gas, but it will be somewhere. So it's going to have to be these little places that we plug the leaks, we economize. And sometimes we're going to have to make some hard decisions about those lifestyle choices. Hopefully it's not a long-term thing, but right now it is. It's where we are at in our economy.
You mentioned Commute Smart for those people that are in Birmingham. And the nice thing about that too, if you log enough miles and, ride sharing or working hybrid, you actually get incentives back. So you can actually get a Publix gift card for $20, $25. So that's a cool point. If people do have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat box. We are starting to get to those as well. Can you please give us an example of making what feels like an intangible goal measurable?
Intangible goal measurable. I guess I would like a little more about what is considered an intangible goal.
Adam, if you can go ahead and elaborate on that, we'll definitely get that question answered. Are there other free resources out there for budgeting for people in the room? Obviously, we said Google Sheets. That's in there right now. Excel spreadsheet, obviously, is another one. But are there any other little tricks that people can do just by going to Google and typing in free something so they know it's a legitimate resource?
Absolutely. There are some, Dave Ramsey has some. Now, not all of his are free, but there are several free. If you go to Gelb has Oxlade, She has some that are free. I like hers if you are in a couple or family situation where you're sharing a budget, sharing finances. So those are some places that you can go. Excuse me. Another thing is the National Credit Union Foundation has financial wellness tools on there. In fact, most financial institutions, banks and credit unions, have free tools that you can use if you are a customer or a member of them. It's our job to make sure that we are helping out our members and our customers that they can have a better financial future.
So a lot of the people that are on this webinar series are students or young alumni. For those younger demographics, how does budgeting change once they do get married? And how does that budgeting change once they have children?
When you get into a marital situation, you have two voices and one budget. So you have to really have great communication. What a lot of times we see is that, they say opposites attract, and that's very true. Even when it comes to our financial habits, you'll often find a saver and a spender. So you're going to have to create common goals. And sometimes you have to go, okay, there's a reason there was always one person in charge of the finances with mom and dad. And when you go into that marital situation, you realize that's because mom was really a lot better at this, or dad always seemed to have it down pat. You have to change your communication. You have to look at the common goal. So that's going to be a huge change. When you have children, your focus becomes the child and their needs. And they have so many things that come up. I mean, I used to think once I got my kid out of daycare, then that was the answer right there, because I would have several $100s a month. And then I realized, oh my gosh, all these after school activities and uniforms and things like that, you have to put, and I have a line item and it's called Owen in my budget, because I know that he has those expenses. So I have to save with a goal, and my goal is to help with his lifestyle. So those are some things that you have to do. I know some parents go, okay, we do one activity a year. And I know others that say we do everything that's out there. There is no magic bullet when it comes to that. You do have to, once again, if you're in that marital situation and you have children, come up with a common goal and make sure, you have to make sure you're on the same page. Otherwise, a budget will fail. It will. So there is a reason a lot of people keep their expenses separate, and they each put only an equal amount into a common fund to pay for the necessities, to pay for the home, the food, the utilities, because it works better for them. It's whatever fits that. Communication's key. Let me say, you got to talk to each other. Finance is one of those things that people don't talk about, and we need to talk about it more.
A lot of this, just as a casual listener, maybe a different alternate thing, it's like, I can't have any fun. But you can have fun. So how can you go on a good vacation without breaking the bank, without breaking the budget? Because people do want to get out, especially now since they've been cooped up for the last 2 years. They want to do something. How can we do that successfully?
That is the first thing you need to do is, what do I want to do? Let me do a little research on it. If my costs are X amount, so let's put that into our savings plan and into our budget. And it's a line item. I need $1,000 for this. I'm just making a number up there. So I know I have to put $50 every pay period away, and I start to add that together. It's not that you do away with it, it's that you account for it and don't wait until, oh, we're leaving in 2 days. How does this work? Well, at that point, the only way it works is you put it on a credit card. Save for it. Save with the goal. I mean, that would be a great way to do either the 26 or the 52-week challenge. Save with a purpose, and you will save more and you will save faster if you have that goal in mind.
Fantastic advice. So how do you feel about certificates of deposit, CDs? This person's children, they have them. They've had them for a few years, but they haven't really accumulated much interest.
They are, right now, deposit rates are just low. They are absolutely low. And we don't really see them coming out of that without also escalating loan rates, because the two are tied. When it comes to CDs, they are a safe way to save. They are not going to save a lot of money. They're not going to make a lot of money. It's according to your risk tolerance. And how long do you want to put it in there? You know, as a financial counselor, I do say I'm not a financial advisor. I am a financial counselor. But I counsel people to put them for no more than 12 months and re-examine what's going on in the market. You can get some better rates, say locking it down for 60 months, 5 years, but you're not going to be making much. And you could possibly in a year, you're making more, possibly not. But if you lock it down at today's rate at a 5-year CD at a minimum deposit, you are going to be making around 0.5%. That's not a way to wealth build. But if you're looking for something that you basically want to start, say, I'm going to put some money down for my kids and I just want to let it roll over, kind of passively earn, that would be a great way to do it. But once again, I would not do it more than 12 months right now. And just kind of see.
Gina, thank you so much for spending the last hour with us and taking us through Budgeting 101. With that in mind, you're coming back in not too long. What can people expect for Budgeting 201?
So in Budgeting 201, we're going to start after people have started tracking their expenses. Let's look at ways of actually getting this into a format that works. Let's put pen to paper. Let's examine the different methodologies, talk a little more, hopefully get a lot of chat going on what works, and really examine those communication lines if they are needed in a couple or family situation. And then we're going to look at what's going on in the economy and how that is impacting us. In just a few weeks, we could have a huge difference. Like I said, within 2.5 weeks, we saw gas prices double. So what is going to happen by April?
Well, I appreciate that sneak peek. Thank you again, Gina. For everybody who did attend tonight, just a heads up, a recording will be made available on our website tomorrow, and we'll get those resources. I'll have Gina email me those resources tomorrow so we can include those as well. You can also register for upcoming Backpacks to Briefcases events to earn credit towards an Evergreen certificate. The best part, it's free. On Wednesday, April 6th and Thursday, April 14th at noon, join us for our resume building and interview skills webinars featuring Adam Roderick, manager of learning and belonging at Milo's Tea Company and a UAB alum. Gina will be back with us on Thursday, April 28th at noon as we continue our conversation with the aforementioned Budgeting 201. Then on Thursday, April 28th, we will welcome the director of the UAB Career Center, Brandon Bright, for leveraging LinkedIn, build your personal brand and network. That webinar will start at 6:30. And our spring Backpacks to Briefcases will wind down with Gina's colleague, Leah Ragland, on Wednesday, May 4th. Join us at noon for I'm Home as we learn the do's and don'ts of first-time home ownership. You can find all of these events and more at alumni.uab.edu/events. Let us help you get through your day or even your commute. Listen in to the UAB Green and Told podcast. New episodes are released every other week and feature members of the UAB community. Meet one of the first persons to put on a Blaze mascot uniform, meet an Army general, and discover why alumni chose their career paths and their unique stories. Download the podcast on Spotify, and the Apple Podcast app, or by visiting our website. And be sure to stay on top of all things alumni on social media. You can look us up by searching UAB Alumni on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. On LinkedIn, search Alumni Career Community. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for tonight's webinar with Gina Cannady. There you see a Scan Me. If you have your phone, I'm going to leave this up for just a few minutes. Let us know what you thought. You give us ideas for the future. Whatever you want to input, go ahead. Let us know. We'll keep that up, as I said. So at this point, have a great evening. And as always, go Blazers.